Across the last 9 World Cups, Mexico has played in 8. The only one they missed was 1,990, banned by FIFA after the previous U20 World Cup when they were caught fielding overage players. But every time they've actually been on the pitch, they've made the round of 16 7 out of 8. 0 quarterfinals. Since 1986, for 40 years, Mexico hasn't stood inside a single World Cup quarterfinal. But 2026 might be different, because this time, they're not just a participant, they're the host. This is the second time in 40 years Mexico has hosted a World Cup. The last time they hosted, in 1986, they made it to the quarterfinals. So Mexico's goal this time is crystal clear: win the group, and the quarterfinal is genuinely on the table. Then the draw came out: South Africa, South Korea, Czech Republic. Not a single powerhouse. The bookmakers immediately installed Mexico as the Group A favorite. The media all sang the same tune. This draw was made for Mexico. But take a look at Mexico right now. Edson Alvarez, the engine of their midfield, just had ankle surgery. Their starting goalkeeper Malagón, ruptured Achilles, ruled out of the 2026 World Cup. Their first-choice striker Santi Giménez, 0 goals all season at AC Milan. A host nation walking into the tournament half-broken, against 3 opponents with 3 completely different styles. So this draw, was it really made for Mexico, or was it made for those 3? Let me tell you straight. This is the single biggest miscalculation every Group A opponent is making. Any team trying to take points out of this group has to come through Mexico first. Underestimate them, and you pay the price. But what exactly is that price? It starts with one thing most people haven't actually thought through. For Mexico, finishing first in the group versus finishing second isn't a small difference. It's 2 completely different worlds. Look at the 2026 bracket. The Group A winner faces the Group D runner-up in the round of 16. Group D is USA, Paraguay, Australia, and Turkey. The Group D runner-up is most likely Paraguay or Australia, and at Mexico City's altitude, those 2 are basically free passes. But the Group A runner-up? Completely different story. They face the Group D winner, most likely the USA or Turkey, both several notches harder than the runner-up. The USA is a co-host. Mexico gets no atmosphere advantage there. Turkey has Arda Güler and a wave of new European top-flight starters. On paper, they're stronger than Mexico. So, win the group, and the quarterfinal is genuinely there. Finish second, and the quarterfinal becomes a wall. That's why the most important question for Mexico this tournament isn't, will they get out of the group? Getting out of the group is happening regardless. The real question is, where do they finish? So who's the biggest obstacle to Mexico finishing first? The answer, South Korea. Why is Korea the biggest obstacle? Simple. They're the only team in Group A with 3 top European starters. Lee Kang-in at PSG, Kim Min-jae at Bayern. Son Heung-min, yes, he moved to LAFC 2 years ago, but he had double-digit Premier League goals in 7 straight seasons. That's a core trio Mexico cannot match. Add Korea's tournament pedigree, 4 straight World Cups where they've reached the knockouts or beaten a major nation, and you've got the only real heavyweight in Group A. The other 2? Czech Republic only made the World Cup through a penalty shootout in the playoffs. Their head coach has been in the job for 4 months, and they haven't played a World Cup since 2006, a 2-0-year gap at the highest level. That's their biggest weakness. South Africa hasn't played a World Cup in 16 years, an even bigger experience gap than Czech Republic. The whole squad has exactly 1 Premier League player, named Foster. Hugo Bruce's system is genuinely solid, but the talent gap to the other 3 is real. So Mexico's real problem is the Korea match. And the question is, does Aguirre's wounded squad have enough to fight Korea for first place? Drop your verdict in the comments. We'll go through the squad together and come back to it. So what does Aguirre's Mexico actually look like? Aguirre is now in his 3rd stint as Mexico head coach, 2002, 2009, 2024. veteran of La Liga, managed Atletico Madrid, Leganés, Mallorca. He's already announced he's leaving after the World Cup, meaning this is his farewell tournament, no cost of failure, he's playing his hand. Formation, nominally 4-3-3. But here's a detail most people don't catch. When Mexico has the ball, this isn't 4-3-3, it's 3-2-5. How does it morph? The right back, Sanchez, tucks inside, joining Montes and Vasquez as a temporary back three. Alvarez drops into the build-up. The two number 8s, Pineda and Chavez, push wide and combine with the two wingers to form a five-man attacking line. This is what Aguirre has run repeatedly at Atletico Madrid and Mallorca in La Liga. Old school Spanish, 3-2-5. So who's the most important player in this system? You'd think the striker. It's a 4-3-3. The striker is the spearhead. Wrong. It's Edson Alvarez. Because every attack in this system starts with one ball from his foot. When Mexico has possession, he becomes one of the two pivots, and everything goes through him. Take him off the pitch, and the whole system loses its engine. Remember that. We're coming back to it. Aguirre's overall philosophy is simple. 55 to 60% possession, transition efficiency, and a deep set-piece library. Pragmatic. Slow burning. But it wins games. And this isn't just talk. This system has hardware. March 2025, Mexico won the CONCACAF Nations League. July 2025, they beat the USA 2-1 inch, the Gold Cup final. Less than a year into Aguirre's tenure, Mexico swept the entire CONCACAF calendar. Hearing this, you might think, okay, this team is solid, they can fight Korea. But hold on for the next part. You might not feel as optimistic afterward, because the squad has several key men who are in trouble right now. The biggest problem, the goalkeeper. The original starter was Malagón, first choice at Club America. In March, he ruptured his Achilles in training, ruled out of the 2026 World Cup. Aguirre now has three keepers. Ochoa, who's 40 years old, playing at a small club in Cyprus. Acevedo, in Liga MX with Santos, and Rangel with Guadalajara. Look at the March friendlies. Rangel has started 7 of the last 8. Aguirre has clearly settled on him, but Rangel has 0 major tournament experience. That's the first real crack in this squad. The back 4, left back Gallardo with Toluca in Liga MX. He's not young, fine at altitude, but he gets exposed against pace. Right back Jorge Sanchez, starting for PAOK in Greece, can keep up with European pace. 2 center backs, Montes at Lokomotiv Moscow, Vasquez captaining Genoa in Serie A. But the biggest problem with this backline set-piece defending, remember that, Czech Republic feasts on this. But the real concern isn't the back line, it's the midfield core. Their brain is Edson Alvarez. He just transferred from West Ham in the Premier League to Fenerbahce in Turkey, and he's the national team captain. He's the engine of Aguirre's entire system sweeper, ball progressor, dressing room leader, Mexico's best midfielder of the last 10 years. No debate. But on February 17 this year, Alvarez had surgery on his right ankle 43 days out. The ankle issue had been recurring since December. This surgery was meant to fix it once and for all. The catch when he returned to Fenerbahce, the club had just signed Kante, 35 years old, but still a world-class defensive midfielder, which means Alvarez might barely play any competitive minutes before the World Cup. So is Mexico's midfield basically dead? Not necessarily. Look at the 2 March friendlies. Mexico drew Portugal 0-0 and Belgium 1-1. Both played without Alvarez. Aguirre is already running Plan B. 3 midfielders. Fidalgo at Club America as a 10. Eric Lira at Cruz Azul as a 6. And Obed Vargas, the new generation, currently at Atletico Madrid. Together, the 3 of them aren't worth 1 Alvarez, but they can keep the system running. That's the key. Up front. Center forward is Santi Giménez, AC Milan's starting striker, on a €20 million salary. But honestly, he's not in form this season. Giménez has been in a goal drought all season. At Milan, 9 games, 0 goals. He had ankle surgery last month too. So Aguirre's real key man up front isn't Giménez. It's Raul Jimenez, a 4-year-old veteran starting at Fulham in the Premier League. 9 goals in 25 games this season. Insanely consistent. In the 2025 Nations League semi-final and final, he scored a brace in both. In the Gold Cup final against the USA in July, he scored the decisive goal again. This veteran is the real fireman of Aguirre's system. When the core falters, he steps up. Out wide, Herving Chucky Lozano is in the most precarious spot. Frozen out at San Diego FC and MLS over disciplinary issues. He hasn't played a match since November last year. He may not even make the 2-3 man squad. In the March friendlies, Aguirre used Roberto Alvarado and Vega, both Liga MX veterans. So this is the hand Aguirre is holding. Strengths: home advantage, fireman Jimenez, plan B already up and running. Weaknesses: no goalkeeping experience, Alvarez fitness, Jimenez goal drought, only 3 to 4 European top-flight starters in the 11. Now back to the question, is this hand strong enough to take points off Korea? Aguirre's plan, listen carefully, isn't to win all 3. It's 3 matches, 3 different attitudes. Start with the hardest one, Korea. I said earlier, this is Group A's actual decisive game. Mexico needs to not lose to Korea to top the group. Korea only needs to not lose to top it. Can Mexico actually stand up to Korea? Toe-to-toe, no real chance. But Korea has a fatal flaw. Hong Myung-bo's 4-2-3-1 is built around a high press and quick counter-pressing. Up front, Son Heung-min, Lee Jae-sung, and Lee Kang-in rotate constantly. Behind them, Park Yong-woo and Hwang In-beom, the double pivot, push high to support the press. This system is brutally effective in low-altitude Europe, but they've never played at Mexico City. Mexico City sits at 2,240 meters. Oxygen is 22% lower than at sea level. What does that mean? Pro players can keep up for the first 60 minutes, but the last 30 are a free fall. This isn't anecdotal, it's sports physiology. FIFA published a report in 2007. At altitudes above 2,500 meters, players cover 15 to 20% less distance in the late stages. Korea's high press is a system that runs on stamina. The first 60 minutes, they probably do pin Mexico back. But by minute 70, Sun's runs slow down, Lee Kang-in's interceptions come a half step late, and that's when Aguirre plays his card. He brings on Jimenez to counter. This 4-year-old veteran specializes in this exact scenario, closing out games of attrition. A solid chunk of his 9-2-5 Premier League haul comes from situations just like this. He doesn't start, he sits for 70 minutes. By minute 80, he comes on against legs that are full of lead. That's Aguirre's play for the draw. Take the win if it comes. Sit in for 70 minutes, then use substitutions plus the home crowd plus altitude to drown Korea in the last 20. But this whole plan has one prerequisite. Remember when I said Alvarez is the engine? Right. He has to be on the pitch, even at 80%, because for the first 60 minutes, someone has to absorb Lee Kang-in's pressing. If Alvarez is fully ruled out, this match gets a lot harder. So if Korea takes Mexico lightly, thinks they've lost their engine and their striker, we can cruise through what happens. They pay the price. The price is dropped points, and once they drop points, they lose first place in the group. So what about Mexico's other 2 games? Czech Republic and South Africa both must wins. But Czech Republic isn't as easy as you think. Because their 3-4-1-2 system is built to exploit Mexico's exact weaknesses. What does the Czech shape look like? 3 center backs in a line, 2 wingbacks stretching wide, a double pivot plus a 10 inches midfield, 2 strikers up top, both 6'3 plus. It's a system designed to break down packed defenses on the counter, but what they're walking into is Mexico's home block, and that's awkward for them. Their fast counters lose efficiency at altitude. But Czech Republic has one weapon. Altitude doesn't touch set pieces. Souček is 6'4", Krejci is 6'2", Schick is 6'2", 3 giants. The moment Czech Republic earns a corner or a free kick, Mexico's defense breaks into a cold sweat. And this is the team's signature. Kubek isn't a creative attack coach. He built his name on set-piece tactics. They are the most direct threat to Mexico's exact weak spot in the entire group. So how does Mexico win this? First, push the tempo through midfield. A 4-month-old Czech coaching setup can't sustain high-intensity sequences. The moment their 3-back wing-back system gets stretched, Mexico's wingers find space. Second, flip set pieces the other way. Chavez has a wand of a left foot. Montes is a header threat. Mexico can punish in the air too. But the most important thing, don't let Czech Republic take free kicks. Which means clean midfield challenges, disciplined wide area defending, and we're back to the same question. Is Alvarez available? This match against Czech Republic, it depends on Alvarez even more than the Korea match. If Czech Republic decides Mexico's wounded, we can pull off an upset. They won't be polite about it. If Mexico doesn't get 3 points here, even second place starts to look shaky. Third match, South Africa. On paper, the safest game in Group A. But there's one variable. How does South Africa's 4-2-3-1 work? Mokoena and Sibisi as a double pivot in the build-up, Foster as the focal point up top, with Mofokeng and Apollos on the wings, both products of the Orlando Pirates Academy, both pace-driven counterattackers. This system finished 4th at the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations. That wasn't a fluke. But Hugo Bruce has said it himself. Our biggest weakness is creativity in midfield. Mokoena is the national team's organizing hub, but he doesn't have a top-tier partner. Sibisi is defense first. The pair can run counters. They cannot build attacks. The moment Mexico controls midfield, the entire South African system seizes up. Add to that, pace counter football at altitude is suicide. Mofokeng and Apollos might break for 2 or 3 transitions in the first 60 minutes, but as the legs go, the spark dies. Foster might be a Premier League striker, but he's the only real attacking threat up there. For this match, Mexico can lean on experience plus the altitude weapon plus rotating bodies. Jimenez starts, save the legs for the knockouts. But if South Africa thinks Mexico's a mess, we can grab an upset. They pay the price too. The price is leaving with 0 points. Back to the other question I opened with, can Mexico actually replicate 1,986 this time? Here's my read. It comes down to first place in the group. If Mexico can take 1 point off Korea and finish first, the round of 16 lines them up against the Group D runner-up, most likely Paraguay or Australia. Mexico City altitude continues to do its work. The Aztecas 87,000 keep cooking. The quarterfinal is genuinely on the table. But if Mexico finishes second, the round of 16 means the Group D winner, possibly the USA, possibly Turkey, both several notches stronger than the runner-up. Whether Mexico survives that depends on whether Alvarez is back by then, and whether Jimenez has rediscovered his goal scoring. So the quarterfinal isn't written in stone. But it's not a fantasy either. It all comes down to this. Can Mexico take 1 point off Korea at the Azteca? So now I want to hear from you. Do you think Mexico can take 1 point off Korea at the Azteca? 40 years without a quarterfinal, do you think this is the time? Drop your thoughts in the comments.